Good evening. It is now 7 p.m. and welcome to the Monday, July 17th, 2023 Double Oak Town Council meeting. Out of respect for all those in attendance, please refrain from talking to other members of the audience during the meeting and silence cell phones. We are having to film from the back tonight, so there is audio on that camera, so it will pick up anything that's said. Free country, free speech is always welcome here, so, but I did want to let everybody know that. So we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Eileen, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Schoenberg. Here. Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Wharton.
Here.
Ms. Hilliard.
Present.
Ms. Welland.
Here.
Mr. Petrie.
Here.
Now,
Thank you. Eileen, I don't think, are we projecting out through the sound very good?
Yeah.
You can hear us okay?
No, you're very, no, I can't hear you. Yeah. I'll just say
How do we
that.
turn it down?
They're low.
Everybody speak up.
And I guess everybody's going to need to speak up tonight.
Speaking to the mic.
Yes.
yeah, speak into the mic.
Hello?
Yes.
Just have to keep the mic.
Okay, that's fine. So we have a quorum. Mike Courtney will now lead us in the invocation.
That's correct. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Lord, we just ask you to be with those as they are working in this heat, especially our first responders. Watch over them. Lord, give us grace as we work through these minutes and meetings. And Lord, just watch over us, guard our hearts. Help us to glorify you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. Mark Dietrich will lead us in the pledges. Please stand.
All right. And now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag.
Thank you. Our first item tonight is citizens' comments, non-agenda subjects. Those citizens wishing to address an agenda item will be recognized at the appropriate time. Any citizen comments at this time will not receive any verbal council response, nor must the citizen expect any discourse with the mayor or other council member. This is a procedural rule not intended to convey lack of interest or discourtesy, but rather to provide time for all citizens to speak and to move on to the new business of the council. As a reminder, all proceedings of the town council, including citizen comments, are recorded for record-keeping purposes. First up tonight on the non-agenda items, we have Brandon Tanksley of Happen Associates. Brandon, please come on up and identify yourself.
Hi, everybody.
You may have to step up closer to the mic too.
Hi, everybody. I am Brandon Tanksley with Haft Associates, here to provide an update on all ongoing engineering and construction projects in the town. So just to get started, the 2022-2023 mill and overlay project construction has now been complete on that project. That was on Shady Oaks Lane, Park Lane, Timberview Drive, and Meadow Knoll Drive. As a reminder from our previous briefings, the contractor was constructing the asphalt in two methods, and that was a 2-inch overlay and then a full depth 12-inch repair. We had previously discussed the potential for quantity overrun and the use of a contingency that was set in the contract. Once the old asphalt had been milled up, our inspectors on site were able to identify any areas that were weak that needed that full depth repair. The existing subsurface conditions were actually better overall than we anticipated. So we needed quite a bit less full depth repair than the contract had allowed for us to replace. So that's good news. Overall, we're still reviewing those final constructed quantities, but we expect them to be quite a bit less than that final pay application to the contractor, to be quite a bit less than the contract had stated and allowed for. The only update really there is there was some damage to the Park Lane pavement days after it was constructed. We believe that was damaged by a trash truck. So myself and Randall are working with the contractor, and Randall's working with Republic Services to figure out what solutions could be possible to solve that damage. That was really superficial damage. It's really nothing to really worry about, but we're seeing what we might be able to do to remedy that. The only other project that's really open now, again, is Waketon Road. So we're working with the town of Flower Mound and the contractor Ed Bell to close out that contract. Those negotiations are ongoing on how exactly that contract will be closed out, but we will provide an update when that proceeds.
The drainage study, how's that coming along?
Yes, so the MS4
Yeah.
drainage report, so looked into that a little bit. That will be due to the TCEQ in March of 2024. So Randall has provided me with the updates from the town side that are needed based on his inspections. So we're continuing to receive those updates throughout the year, and then around in March, we will submit that to the TCEQ.
There's a larger drainage study though that the town asked for the engineering to do beyond the MS4, or are you going MS4 and it's all inclusive?
I'm familiar with the MS4,
Yeah,
which
well,
is
this is a separate-
yearly-
This is a separate
Yeah.
Okay.
comprehensive
I'll
drainage
get with
study.
you tomorrow on it, and
Okay.
get you up to speed.
Great.
So if citizens and council, if you're not aware, Brandon is now our, he's been assigned to the town of Double Oak. He is our lead engineer. He does what Steve did for us, and we're super excited to have Brandon here. He's going to be great. Been working with him on and off here for the last month or so, and I'm really pleased with his follow-up and all the things he does to communicate what's actually going on. So I think it's just going to continue to get better as we move forward. So Brandon, thank you. Next up is Joanne Meyer.
And you can't read my lips
No, you'll have to help me out. If you could identify yourself with your address and name, please.
I'm Joanne Meyer, 170 Park Lane. When was our last meeting? John.
Month ago.
A month ago. The gentleman, oh God, somebody step on it.
Tell me what it is.
Janice Vice says Dick Tracy watch. When the emergency management company was here, we were originally from Corpus Christi and we've been through several hurricanes. So I mentioned to somebody about, what are we gonna do here? What do we do for, some emergency so that the town knows where to go if there's a, if you can't stay in your home or other little things that might come up when you have that. One thing is an evacuation location. So like if the church, or the school here, where it would be, so people will know maybe they don't feel comfortable staying in their home. I realize that a tornado doesn't give you much time to think of what you're going to do to the best center of your house. The other thing with that, though, is when you think about senior citizens, handicapped persons, women maybe who are about to deliver a baby, maybe we need to make people aware of what they need to do, think about. I know now that we have one senior citizen who's wheelchair bound, paralyzed. So they can be concerned about people like that. The other thing is contaminated water. Are we gonna put a location where you can come up and get cases of water? In Corpus Christi, one time we went and got ice, because we had electricity for 2 weeks at one hurricane. And then, you know, if the electric goes out in your home, is there something you can do that you can maybe help? So, as many of y'all know, 2 houses in Toledo during Snowmageddon lost electricity. Ours was one of them, because the internet went out. Well, how we found out was we drove out, plugged our phones in, and drove up to get phone service someplace. We saw all the lights on, because they were all still rolling. So I said, let's drive up here. So Tommy went into the fire station, and he said, yeah, you're 2 houses. So of course, being people that would live through a lot of hurricanes and other, you know, things, we went back home, put on 3 layers of clothes, hat, you know, double socks, and climbed into bed with 6 blankets. My daughter called the sheriff, the police department, I mean, and he came and saw me dressed like this. And I said, we're fine. So I said, call my daughter and tell her we're okay. He called her, and so about 15 minutes later, she shows up, because he told her, don't leave your parents alone in the house. Well, after I thought about it, after last emergency meeting, management thing, we could have come here. We could have just sit there and keep them all in here. We've got a cot and a sleeping bag, and put the dog in a little kennel and in the bathroom until morning came. So that's just my concern about that, to have a plan, let people know what the plan might be, you know, just some thought about it.
Thank you.
Oh,
and-
one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
As I thought about it, when we drove out to get the cell tower, get our phones on, one guy offered us firewood, but we wouldn't use our fireplace because it hadn't been checked in a while, and I wouldn't take a chance on having a chimney fire.
Your timing of that, I'm having lunch with the Denton County Emergency Management people that were here on Wednesday.
Well, if you lived through something like that before, this is like where we used to live, you know, you understand the importance of those things.
So thank you for bringing that up. Next up is the consent agenda. All consent agenda items listed are considered to be routine of the town council and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered its normal sequence of the agenda. Information concerning consent agenda items are available for public review. We have 2 items. The first item is consideration and action on the minutes of the June 19th, 2023 meeting. And the second is the consideration and action on the adoption of the town org chart and posting it on the town website. Council, is there any corrections to the minutes?
I don't have any.
I think we should move item 2, because what is in the packet is not what we discussed on June 19th. And just what we discussed was less, this is more, it's more precise, it's more explanatory, so it's better.
So why would we move it? I'm just trying to
Only,
follow that.
well, so I'm only thinking because what we discussed before is the notes that I took down for the one that we have before us. If you guys are happy with it, I think it's a wonderful product. I just wanted to make sure that we were all good with.
The minutes did say corrections and updates to that, which, yes, this includes those and more.
Yes.
And I think it's ready for prime time.
Okay.
But I don't know what
Other
Yes, thanks.
comments, council?
No, I'm fine with it too.
Okay, then, I withdraw.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
I move that we approve the minutes from the June 19th, 2023 meeting, as well as the board chart as included in the agenda packet for this meeting.
Council, is there a second? Second. All right, we have a motion by Councilperson Hillier and Councilperson Courtney, a second. Eileen, can you please call the vote?
Ms. Hillier,
Aye.
Ms. Welland,
Aye.
Ms. Schoenbrood,
Aye.
Mr. Courtney,
Aye.
Mr. Dietrich.
Aye.
The consent agenda items passed. Next up is the mayor and council comments or reports. I prefer to have the council go first versus the mayor, so council, Mark, any comments or any items you'd like to discuss here?
So we have a winning logo from our 50th anniversary logo contest. And so I put it over here on the table as you walked in. It was submitted by Bill Lundgren. And so congratulations and thank you. We ended up with 8 different logos that citizens could choose from. And we appreciate all the citizens getting involved in that. And thanks for voting at the 4th of July picnic, the citizens that voted.
Gene?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that there's a meeting on the calendar, town calendar for tomorrow for the Double Oak Women's Club. It was also in your Friday minutes. I don't believe we meet in the summertime. So anybody who's coming for that, there isn't one.
Yeah, we
So just
just got our
FYI.
calendar until September.
Okay, so
first
then
meeting.
the August one should also come off. Or the
Yes.
July and the August one should come off. If you could, thank you, Lenny. And appreciate your clarification. That's all.
Deputy Mayor Pro Tem.
Anything?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Randall's not here tonight. Did we see any invoices from 1 through 3 on the tree trimming yet? Or Brighton Lane?
Yes, the tree trimming came in at $3,200, just what we said. The invoice did come through.
And Brighton Lane?
And Britton Lane came in at the same, what was brought to the council.
Good. I don't know if anybody's had the joy of driving over our brick road, but it's much improved.
I'll have to check it out.
That's all.
So we're heading into that time of year called budget. And in the past, at times it's necessary but painful. So we have put together 5 years of adopted budgets, 5 years of final plan together. I will be submitting it to the town council here within the next week or so. What we are going to do this year. No, I get it. You guys be safe out there. And then we're going to put some projections in it, and then we are going to submit it to each of our administration departments, so police department, town administration, public works, and such. And then we will be working with the individual administrations to come up with a budget that we will then bring back to the public. So we don't have to sit here in front of the town and decide that we need $300 more in stamps and $200 more in this and that. So we're going to take a stab at it. I know I can speak for the chief because we've been talking about it for over a month, and same with Eileen. We're going to, we'll struggle a little bit, but I think we're at a point. Right now, our revenue projections for the end of the year are a little bit off the charts. So there's probably going to be a pretty good surplus coming into the town. And that is without Brahms, because we have done some factoring for Brahms. So we'll take a good look at our projected revenue with Brahms coming into next year, at least half of next year. But I just wanted to share with you that the balance sheet is looking great. Our fund balances are super strong, getting stronger. We've still got to pay out on the mill and overlay, but we know we already have those funds budgeted for. So I think the town's in great shape, and we're gonna do what we can to improve it with a real positive budget for next year. And with the goal in mind, and it's gonna be harder, will be to get to that no new revenue rate, because that's important to you, the citizens. Last comment I'll make is, I think you've all seen what's happening in Austin the last 2 weeks, where they have, they haven't voted it through the Senate yet, but I guess it's gonna happen quickly, and then the governor will sign it. There will be a move from, this is on your ISD taxes. Currently, you have a $40,000 homestead exemption as it relates to your ISD tax. That's your biggest portion you pay. It'll move to $100,000. It'll be pretty significant. The homestead exemption for the ISD. It will not have an impact on Denton County tax, it won't have an impact on Double Oak tax, but it will on the ISD, and that's always the biggest portion. So as soon as they get it signed, I'm actually going to have our state representative, Rhonda Themish, will actually come out here and visit us during a council meeting, and she will do a report out on what that means. So I met with her last week, and she's excited to come meet the citizens. So stay tuned. Something positive actually finally happened in Austin. Public Works is not here. Code enforcement, animal control, anything, Eileen?
No, sir.
All right. Well, then it comes to you, administration.
Your dates were in the packet. Oh. The year-to-date P&L and balance sheet was in your packet, along with the CD report. And if you have any questions, or anything on there.
I just had a question of the water on this, because it doubled. Basically, what was on the previous one, was it a bill that just finally came in, or? Because it went from, I was looking at the one from the previous meeting, which was at 700 and something. And then this one's at 1,464. That is,
That's the total.
yeah, the total before was in the $700 range.
Is that a quarterly?
Yeah, that's why I was wondering how they
No,
bill us.
it's monthly, pay it monthly, and it went from 209 in May to 265 in June.
Probably because they're watering the lawn to get ready for the 4th of July.
Correct.
Okay.
I would think.
Yeah.
I would think
Looking at that,
that.
and it's going, it just changed a lot more than I
You get a
here it
little more
is.
green.
Yeah, it was at cumulatively, it was at 760.07 on 6/16. And then it's 14,464.37 there, so I just noticed that was a big jump, out of proportion to everything else that we for.
Yeah, we'll go ahead with that.
Okay.
Anything else, Eileen?
I spoke with Ronnie Rodden last week, and he indicated he would have some proposals for our insurance,
Okay.
that he would come sometime this week and give us that information. I have not heard from the other broker. So, I'll let you know what day he's coming, and I'll email an email so he holds to be here.
What Eileen is referring to is it's the TML, it's the insurance. It's just like your insurance that you have through your employment.
Well, no, HUB is the broker. TML is
So we've asked, we've already been kind of given notice that there's going to be a significant increase in that insurance, as we've all felt. So what we've done is we've asked them to go out and find us at least another bid, so we have something to compare. So that's kind of where we're at with that. As soon as we meet with them, last year we kind of waited till the last minute to do that. We're not going to do that this year. So as soon as we can put them in front of the town to explain the benefits and the increases and such, we will do so. But we have asked them for a second bid. I don't know if it's going to get us anywhere, but we have to do that due diligence.
I will add, because I've been watching that, I actually subscribe to journals in the healthcare industry that talk about this kind of thing. But interestingly, there was an article in the Dallas News last year after we got done with our budget process. And two things, insurance rates in the Dallas area went up 16% last year, which is actually more than ours did. But interestingly, and they didn't have an answer to why, but insurance is more expensive in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which seems rather odd with all the providers. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get for these bids this year.
Public safety.
Yes, sir. In your package, you have the second quarterly report for criminal investigations, and also the last 2 months' worth of call for service breakdown on the number of calls. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, and if you have any questions reference to those reports and the CID report.
Council, any questions for the chief?
Thank you for all the information.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. And HR, human resource, I have 3 individuals in the background, through the background process. Hopefully we get somebody out of these 3. We'll see what happens.
When chief gets that person hired, that puts us back at full staff. And that's what they've been working hard for, so appreciate the efforts. We had somebody, I guess, and then they didn't kind of work through the background check, so.
Second, have not made the background check.
Somebody else can have them.
Yes.
In your packet was also the Double Oak Volunteer Fire Department activity. I didn't know, Brandon, did you want to come up and speak to it, or just leave it as in the packet?
Which activity are you referring to, Mayor?
The activity report for the fire department?
No, not this time.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
Since you were here, I thought I'd give you an opportunity.
Appreciate that.
I just got one question. Brandon, fire calls quantity is 50. Is that just Double Oak, or is that every time you guys go out?
That would be every time we go out, because we are paged to go to Arval when our Arval calls as well. Now, they're not a whole lot of them, but they do happen.
Thank you. Roads and Drainage Committee. Come on down.
Okay, Gary Goodman, 131 Craven Up Drive. You already heard from half about the 4 roads that were milled and overlaid, and they did a very good job of that. Also, Britton Lane, you heard about that. Bids have gone out for all the roads that we proposed for crack sealing, and we're still waiting, I think, on some bids for that before we close that out. But once we do that and get the crack sealing done, we'll be good for the year.
Excellent. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Am I out?
Yeah. Yeah, if you could come up and identify yourself.
Well, I can do it. Yeah, Tommy Meyer, Mississippi Park Lane, Texas. The last gentleman mentioned that there was some damage done to Park Lane. And
Yes.
I just would like to know where it is.
I do not know the answer to that.
That's sorry.
It's about 4 doors south of your house.
Correct.
It's about
It's about 4 doors south of your house. It's on the right-hand side. It's like coming out of the driveway. For some reason, actually, I thought it was a trailer somebody had that just scrubbed the bottom of it or something along that line. But it's just a mark
Okay.
that it's kind of deep.
It is such a nice job. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, I think you would see this. You could see
Yeah,
it.
you can see it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Dr. Goodman. Moving on to new business agenda, item number 8, discussion, consideration, and action on the purchase of a video distribution amplifier and a video capture device for adding the council's presentation screens directly into the town's video screens in the amount not to exceed $1,900. Brian Schultz is taken ill with his back, and so he's had to step away for a week while he gets healed. Councilperson Hillier will be doing a high level on this item, and then I'll add some commentary to it as well.
Yeah, we're going to tag team. Brian mentioned this to me briefly in passing, so I don't want anybody to think that there was like a formal technology meeting on this. It's something we've discussed off and on for a while, and the last meeting, if any of you remember, about the first 20 minutes or so of the meeting, there was no audio for the viewers who were streaming. And it turns out Brian finally figured out that it was a very short cable, but essential one, and he ended up kind of like the Dutch boy putting his finger in the dike holding that thing for the rest of the meeting so that there would be audio. So that kind of prompted him to get moving on this, because there's also been some concern about when people are projecting on the big screen, the camera that was videoing that is at a weird angle. So he's been moving some things around, but kind of moving forward with this, he has done he's been working with the company that has recommended we purchase all the equipment that we currently have for streaming meetings and cameras and all that. And what we need to do is add a distribution amplifier that integrates with our current system, so it works. And he's checked around and got the best quote from CDW, and it also adds additional HD base T ports for our system needs that we'll be using for other requirements in the building. So it's going to free up some equipment that can be used to bring the video feed to the computer that he uses to stream to attach, to the capture card. So anyhow, long story short, what's going to happen is when this is all done, if it gets approved by the council, is when items are being projected on the big screen, not tonight, since Brian isn't here, he'll actually be able to capture that feed directly into the feed for remote viewers, also anybody who comes back to view it later, directly, as opposed to them seeing it through the camera, and sometimes it's a little bit fuzzy depending on what's on there. So it's actually going to bring the complete system, since we decided to stream these and record them for ongoing use, really up to the functionality that is appropriate for this kind of thing. So anyhow, I believe that he's also walked Patrick through and actually shown him what he's done already in terms of relocating equipment in preparation for this. So Patrick, do you have anything else to add to my very high level?
No, you did a good job there. Really, what it boils down to is we want to be more efficient with our broadcast. And we're going to continue to look to become more efficient. So although this is underneath the $2,000 threshold of what the mayor can approve, as we've talked about over the past year, the transparency of how we spend the money in the town is very important. And with this item being near to or close to $2,000, we expected to bring it to the council first before we spent the money. It is absolutely needed. He'll be able, when he gets back, he'll be able to get the equipment, get it installed, so the next meeting we'll have an even better meeting that we can show online. Council, any questions?
Are we required to broadcast? Because we're spending a lot of money on this type of stuff.
No, we are not required. This came up, it's my understanding, this came up when COVID hit. There was no way for the citizens to physically come in and do a council meeting.
COVID's over.
Yes, and most other towns are doing some sort of live streaming, and we think it's a plus, especially with our citizens. We've had a lot of very positive feedback from the sessions, other than the fact that they might take a little bit longer to watch, which we're trying to expedite that here this evening. So I do know that at previous council, previous mayors, we made the commitment to want to stream our council meetings online.
There was a request with the prior council last year from a number of citizens who requested that.
Yep.
Some, get home from work late or whatever, and are unable to attend for one reason or another, and that allows them to engage real time with this. So the council decided at that time to go forward with broadcasting every meeting. So that was done by the prior council, so this is just bringing it up to where we really need to be.
What are utilization statistics?
I can get those, Brian can pull them off the live feed. We have those statistics. I don't have them personally, but we can get them.
Yeah, that's pretty important.
Well, the question is, well, I don't disagree, as a matter of fact, I asked him the same question last week when this came up as a potential agenda item, and he was busy, well, actually, something came up, a family matter, and he had to leave town, so he didn't have time to get that information. And I'm with you, like, what's the cost benefit analysis of this, honestly? I guess in this case, I think it's important for transparency purposes that we provide this for the citizens of Double Oak. And also, honestly, there are times when I go back to look at a video just to make sure I heard something correctly before I come to a meeting, just to refresh my memory. Because I didn't have time to scribble notes, or they were a little sloppy and I wasn't sure what it's like, is this really what we decided? So, for what that's worth.
I'll say, I use it in the same way, and I've had residents say that, especially since our minutes are not very detailed, that it helps people understand what the thing was once they see.
Well, the discussion that went into the decision.
Right.
Yeah.
So we will get the statistics, and we'll take a look at it. Absolutely.
I would just say transparency is priceless, and if it's encouraging. I would say the transparency is priceless, and if it's encouraging community engagement and monitoring us and holding us accountable for our actions and stuff, I'm all for it.
I've had a lot of folks come up and say they appreciate the fact that we do this. It's amazing, here we are in the middle of July, and we've got a chamber full of our citizens, and we thank you all for being here, because, we do have that option, and so we love the live environment, but we also like to be able to stream it as well. So I'll get Brian good statistics. Other questions? Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the request for an amount of not to exceed $1,900 for the purchase of a video distribution amplifier and a video capture device for adding the council chamber's presentation screens directly to the town's video streams.
A second.
We have a motion by Jean and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Eileen. Can you please call a vote?
Mr. Wortman,
Aye.
Ms. Hilliard,
Aye.
Mr. Petrie,
Same?
Ms. Rowland,
Aye.
Ms. Shonner.
Aye.
The item passes. Thank you, council. Item number 9, discussion and consideration on the Double Oak traffic control sign, presentation by Mayor Pro Tem Connie Schoenrad and Police Chief Ruben Rivas.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so, as everyone in town knows, we have a speeding issue in town, and I think Chief Rivas and I have been talking about this for about the last year, of ways that we might be able to add other remedies to the speeding issue, and tonight is just a presentation, and we had discussion and take down questions. We're not taking any action tonight, but I would ask that you, as the residents of this town, consider what's presented tonight, because we're talking about signs throughout town, possibly illuminated signs. These affect your streets, and we want feedback from our community. These are ideas that we came up to hopefully thwart some speeding and help our police department in their actions every day out there. But your input is also valuable to us. So primary goal here is to reduce speed and improve the safety on our roads in Double Oak. The police department has identified the 4 main offending roads.
the speedways in Double Oak.
Here's some camera right here too. The Kings Road, Simmons, Waketon, and Cedar Crest, these come up in conversation after conversation. So these were some of the ideas that we threw out there, and I did this presentation before I saw the Cross Timbers Gazette last issue, where Mayor Johnson actually did put it in his article, so appreciate that. But we can take free methods in communicating that we want the speed limits of our town to be obeyed by anybody who's passing through and those who live here too. It's for the safety of our residents. We can also increase presence of patrol cars throughout the town. We can do that manned or unmanned. We can authorize overtime, which we've already done, for additional patrols. Recruitment and hiring of police officers, which Chief Rivas is in process of doing. We can consider mobile speed detector signs, digital display signs on specific roads. The one I always tell him about is in Bridlewood on Country Club Road. When you go down that road, there's that flashing speed sign that makes you aware of what you're driving and brings you down in your speed to the proper limit. Addition of citywide signs to speed signposts and rumble strips, speed bumps, which we know from history, the community does not like that, but it's one of the ideas out there to help curb the problem.
Thank you, ma'am. So for the last year, Mayor Pro Tem Sean Redd and myself, along with other citizens, have heard a major impact with the surrounding areas just growing year after year. And it's, as everybody knows, Double Oak is a cross cut through Flower Mound, Denton, and so forth. And just the growth that's happening. The complaints from citizens for the last 2 years seems like they've been increased due to what citizens see out there as speeders coming through town, running stop signs. Of course, this last year was a little different for us because we were short-staffed and we couldn't get out there as much as we had. We got more staff out there doing patrols and making more traffic stop contacts. So Ms. Sean Redd decided to get with me and work together on figuring out what are our options to slow speeders down or deter speeders from coming through Double Oak. So we put this presentation together and are speaking to the citizens, reference to our ideas of what we can do to slow the speeders down. And she went over some of these line items, not all of them are popular, but it's just ideas thrown out there to the citizens and getting your input on what you think would be beneficial for the town and slowing speeders down, and see if anybody else has an idea that we have not thought of. But there's not much we can do when it comes to speeding besides going out there and writing tickets and making sure people know, hey, don't speed through Double Oak. We used to have a reputation before that you're going to get a ticket if you're going through Double Oak speeding.
We'd like to get that reputation back.
Yes, sir.
So these are some of the measures that we talked about. Stationary posted speed signs. Like Chief Rivas had his officers go out, take a look at the streets, put some recommendations out there. So of the Kings, East and West Ends, Midway getting 2 additional signs, Simmons, North and South Ends getting 2 additional signs, Waketon, west of Chin Chapel, 1, Cedar Crest, south of 407, 1 additional sign, and points of entry through the town. Maybe citywide. Oh, I put that in there twice. That would be redundant on the bottom of the slide. Also, we could look at speed limit trailers. I know Flower Mound's put some outside Waketon as you're heading out to 2499. You see that one occasionally. So maybe we look into purchasing one of those. It has advantages of mobility to be moved around at different places in town, hot spots, and it's versatile to the times of the day. They can also produce traffic analysis reports. So that is a really neat technology that maybe since the last time we had a traffic mobile sign in town, that could be something very useful for us, especially as we go into an analysis of Kings Road. And then the supplemental citywide sign, which is just added citywide underneath our existing speed limit signs, but at the entrances of town. So when he passing through, or one of us comes in, it's saying, hey, this is everywhere in town, 30 mile per hour, so bring it to their attention. And these are just some examples of some signs from some vendors that we looked at and reviewed quotes. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Just going back to the previous slide, some of the signs that she's referring to, the stationary posted signs, I'm sure y'all seen it around Flower Mound. What's that one sign here by the golf course? Flower Mound, the posted stationary one?
Yeah, and it's got a digital
Windsor,
display
is
on
it
it.
Windsor Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all been down Windsor Road, you see a stationary sign that lets you know what your speed limit. We talked about, the pros and cons of it and with Ms. Shonrad, and other people have different ideas, but people get used to those flashing signs there all the time at the same location. It's like anything else, it's just speed limit sign, we don't pay attention to it. Even if it's flashing, you already know it's there. So that's the one downside I see to the stationary sign, unlike the mobile one, where you're able to move it around. It's never at the same spot, and you don't get used to it. I recently, Dixon Flower Mound had one up there, I believe, a few weeks back, the mobile one, where they put it up and people see it. So people don't get used to it, and also the mobility of that is we can put it anybody's street. We have different citizens talking about, hey, they're speeding on my street and so forth. And with this, and even with the stationary one, they have the capability of capturing the data, dates, times, speeds, and we're able to present that back to the council or citizens that is complaining about their speeding on my road. And we can show the citizens and everybody what is exactly happening out there, right? Because we don't have to turn on the sign, we can just leave it off while we're capturing that data, which will help out. It helps us also know days and times of when we should be out there, at what point of time we should be out there enforcing and looking out for these violators.
Okay, so these are just pictures of some of the signs that could be possibly introduced to our town. We all love the rural aspect of Double Oak, but we don't have a lot of streetlights, light pollution and stuff, so bringing a permanent sign that might flash when you're going by, that might not be what you guys want in town. But you do want speed control. And these are the designs of some of the radar trailers that are out there. Chief, do you have anything to add on this slide?
As you can see, there's a few different companies that we looked at. There's hundreds of companies that provide these signs to you. Just speaking with Ms. Shonrad, reference to what I prefer, it's a company that we currently use as Stalker, as these two on the right are the radars that we currently use in our car I'm familiar with. Like I said, you can still go as cheap as you want, but you get what you pay for. You know how they say, get what you pay for, right? But any option is better than no option. So.
Okay, the citywide, this is an example, this is down, I always call it Shiloh, but it's McMakin, closer to Bartonville. And the yellow sign underneath the speed limit sign is what I coined the citywide sign. So just a simple, smaller sign, but to put at the entrances of our town to bring the attention that we do have a speed limit throughout our city limits.
Bartonville lowered their speed limit from 35 to 30 across the town a month ago. And this is their way of getting it out to their citizens.
Well, Macon used to be 40,
Right.
so I still had a hard time going 30 on that.
It was a speedway too. Still is, I think. So these are those options that you saw pictures of, locations and quantities, cost of each individual sign and total expense. And we are not proposing these, but it illustrates the cost of doing any of these items. And so we're not making any decisions tonight, but we could consider a mixture of these items. combinations of them. And we have some quotes already, so you can see the comparison on the trailers, the cost distinctions between them. We provided to council and in the packets a lot of spec information and the cost information on them. But this is just kind of encompassing what the cost would look like if we did, stationary signs at the 6 locations that were proposed. That's pretty high budget. We could look at the trailer options, and we have 2 good ones. Stalker's a local company. There's a lot of pluses that because they're already familiar with Stalker equipment in the police cars. So it's just stuff that we're giving you the information of what these cost outlets might be.
And Connie, I did have questions on there, because I looked at it, it looks like they all have 2-year, I'm not close enough, there. It looks like they all have 2-year warranties on them, as I was reading them, whether they're a sign posted or they're trailers. What is the life expectancy? Did y'all ask that question on those? Because like I know from talking with Randall, our traffic signs all have a life expectancy, and he has to replace them when they're no longer reflective or different things happen. What's the life expectancy on these?
I didn't look to that detail. Cost was one of them, making sure we had options to consider. And we're not in an action state either.
Yeah, so if we can.
But I knew a lot of them are solar operated,
Mhm.
so we'll have that, and they do have the reflective qualities, plus they're newer technology. So,
One of the things that you can't compare to this, but the school zone sign, same concept. You have the flashing lights and the solar, those have been up for years. The only problem that you usually have with that is the battery itself wears down. And it's the same problem we had with one of our previous trailers. We never had an issue with the parts of it, it was just the battery. So
you anticipate that would probably be our biggest maintenance, the replacement of
and
batteries?
when I say big, it's pretty much it. When you replace it, whatever, the batteries wear down in 2-3 years.
Okay.
yeah, there's
That's
several years associated with the life of the batteries, so
Yeah.
it is more trying to come up with a combination that would satisfy the need to help supplement our police department in speed control and still keep what we love about our town, our rural town, without a bunch of signs, a bunch of lights impacting our traffic.
Yeah, and I did notice that you had solar power on all of those, because otherwise they only had like an 18-day or a 10-day where you'd have to bring them back in and recharge them.
And some will only activate when the cars are purchased.
Bonnie Morrow, 105 North Forest.
Chief, now that we're almost full staff, can you tell me or tell us how much of an increase we've had in ticket writing?
Let's see, from this is the last couple of months, and, let's see. So we had 235 stops for 6-1 to 6-3, and the previous month was 362, so it's about the same. One of the
We had that many stops or that many tickets?
traffic stops.
Okay, were they all ticketed?
Well, they're all ticketed either with a warning or a citation. And one of the things that we discussed with previous meetings is we as a town and a police department cannot order the officers to write a citation. That's a citation. It's against the law for us to do that. We can ask them to go out there and enforce as part of their duty and make traffic stops. But we can say you write tickets instead of warnings. We get ourselves sued for that.
Okay, so I'm just curious, how many police officers do we have for each shift?
So the way it works right now, we have 6 spots, 6 officer spots. Currently, we have 5 out there. So the way it works is we have one officer working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and a second officer working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The other officers, we have 2 spots, the 2 officers available during the day, is 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. So that gives,
overlap.
yes, ma'am, we call it a little power shift. But what happens when an officer is sick, on vacation, training, whatever reason, we pull one of those overlapping officers from the power shift to whatever shift that officer needs. So you won't always have two officers at that time frame.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Donna Dillon, 221 Wicked Extension. Have you considered adding some additional stop signs on Kings Road and other places where, like at Trinity Lakes and Kings and some other stuff to slow people down? And then I'm all for speed bumps because we do have speeders. Waketon's only 2 blocks long, and from the time they come around that circle, they're already doing 35, 40 miles an hour just to get to Bridlewood, because that's the place where they're going.
So there is some guidance out there on, when Simmons was expanded and so forth, there was a lot of hot topics on the number of stop signs they put on there. And I don't know the actual, what it says, but you know, and if anybody knows offhand, Mayor, you have to have justification to putting up all those stop signs. From my understanding is you can't put up to deter to slow down the flow of traffic. So I don't know exactly what.
There are state regulations that say you have to do a traffic study.
Yeah.
Because I looked into this last year, when we were having a similar discussion about a request for one informally on Timberleaf. And it's like, you have to do a traffic study, and those cost about $5,000 to do to get the stats, and then you have to meet a certain, threshold, and yeah. So it's not just as simple as like, gee, let's throw some more stop signs, which I understand, got it.
And when they try to put road bumps up, citizens were not happy of putting those up.
I get it, because I have a regular car, so it does take a lot to get over.
They also call them, there are also these things called speed tables, which are longer and a little more gradual, so that it's not like the speed bumps that we all hate, But there are, they do exist, and the other thing I discovered, because I spent a lot of time yesterday getting myself, learning things. There's also, it wasn't mentioned, but might be an option worth looking at since this is just starting the discussion. They call pavement chevrons and also a speed permanent message on the road, like you see in some of the interstates, like this is I-35, this is in other words, speed limit 30, that kind of thing, like right there in front of you, so assuming you're not looking at your cell phone, you actually see it, but the chevrons, the way they design them is, it's not, they're diagonal lines across the road, but the way they space them makes you slow down, just by visually how fast you're moving over those. That would be, so those are 2 other options that I came across. But I was also wondering, a couple things. Since there is some serious money wrapped up in some of these, what it would cost to do a traffic study to really get, okay, I'm big on data and return on investment, that kind of thing. So one of the things that I didn't see in this, it would be nice to see as this moves forward, is some stats in terms of the number of, say, pick each one of those 4 speedways, which really aren't engineered to be speedways, so it's kind of relative, but really understand when we're out there, say, in a month's time or across a year, give us a chart for each one of those and say, number of stops for speeding that resulted in a ticket, that resulted in a warning. In other words, they're going fast, but not quite enough to hit whatever the threshold is for a ticket, based on officer's judgment. That it would be nice to have some numbers to see, and I'm not saying this is not a problem, because we've heard that it is an issue and a concern. It'd just be nice to know, to have some numbers to add to discussion along the way. You did mention that the one sign along Bridlewood, it's called habituation. In other words, it's kind of like, you see it for so long, it's like, well, yeah, that's nice. I mean, sometimes I go past one and say, you're going 37 and a 40, okay, great, or I'm going 42 and 40 or whatever. It's like, yeah, that's nice. And some people say, and so what? Because other than for telling you how fast you're going, it's not like those red light cameras that we all hated when you got a ticket for not coming to a full stop before you did a right turn on red or whatever. The other thing is I've read, I did lots of research and wrote a lot of stuff down. It's very, very fascinating. I've also read that, and this goes back to our community and the kind of the rural concept that Connie mentioned. Depending on where these are, you know, these signs could be visually putting light in people's homes. It's distracting at night, so we'd have to be careful if we did something like that, where they were placed to make sure that they weren't disruptive. I guess the other thing is, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was Lady Bird Johnson, somebody, but I'm dating myself, there was a move nationally to get rid of billboards because they're visually, it's like visual pollution. And so to the extent we do something, it would be nice to be tactical and considerate of like how much of this we do in the town. So I'm just throwing some things out.
And that point's taken, that's why we only brought it for
Yes, no, I'm
discussion and
just throwing that
consideration
out.
tonight and asking citizens to provide their feedback because lighted signs, we can have a positive or negative feelings against that. And we wanted to take that into consideration before any other investments. But I will point out that the trailers that we looked at do provide those traffic study datas and much cheaper than a professional contractor coming out and doing it for thousands of dollars for a one-time thing. We have access to it whenever we wanted. And to give chief the data for prime times to go out and target the high traffic, high speeds coming through town, and then take whatever actions appropriate on those drivers.
So who would be, I want to know who's going to be going out and, I know that these are like have some intelligence, some amount, so somebody's going to have to go out and gather that data. Who's going to do that?
These would be
Who's gonna-
assets of the police department.
Yeah, there's been,
I know, but somebody has to actually look at it and mess with the data. They don't come up with a nice nifty, really cute chart that says, here it is, put it in the,
Well,
somebody's got to work with it.
There's a lot of, I mean, we really wanted to keep the discussion high level because.
I'm just throwing it out for consideration.
So of course, we've used this type of product in the past, during my term here, and it was the responsibility of the police department to put these signs out and obtain the data from the system. I think this is an easier system than what was out there before, made it easier to obtain that information. In the time that we used, and I don't remember for how long we used the device, in the time frame that we did use it, we never did receive a complaint from any citizens about the light itself. One of the complaints was that they didn't want it on their yard or in their property, so we started asking permission after that, and is it okay to park it in your front of your yard? Most people say yes, but you get that few that don't want it there, so you take that into consideration and just move it somewhere else.
So we're going to go ahead for the sake of the rest of the meeting. This is, we wanted to bring this out. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay, that's okay. The speed bump then also need a traffic study?
Yes.
And will that portable machine actually comply with the traffic study? Maybe?
I'm sorry.
I think placement of permanent requires traffic studies.
Okay.
I'd have to check on the trailer that moves around.
Oh,
I
no,
don't
no,
think,
no, if that would suffice for the traffic study, if the trailer was.
We would need to look into that.
and the vendor information that we got on the signs seem like they do provide the traffic study data that a lot of towns use. So it's kind of one of their selling points of the product.
And then Chief, when you hand out a warning, when you do write a warning for a ticket versus a ticket, do you keep track of that and then next time they're speeding, they get one, a ticket?
Well, I'm not saying that they can't, it is tracked in the system, or it shows up in our system that they can stop before, getting citation or warnings, and officers do take that into consideration, so yes.
Okay. And then the last thing, when we do start enforcing after getting more stuff up around town, I would think it would be kind of on the fun side, is to have a speeding awareness police presence day and just have several officers on one road. doing
Yes.
radar, pulling everybody over, and then he made a statement to everybody who's driving through.
Right, and I spoke to the mayor about that last week.
So she's stealing your thunder?
I'll give you that.
It was planned.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
But on that line, so they're like, free press, I do recall seeing like Hickory Creek's department put a social media campaign out with their squad cards saying, we're out. So watch it coming through town. So I'm all for those free marketing that way.
So it was shared with me at my meeting with our state representative. Copper Canyon and Vickery are pushing the state to get a stop sign, a traffic signal at the Vickery
Yeah.
location. Now right now, when you come eastbound, you can't see over the hill until you get close to Jernigan, the traffic backing up. So one would proceed past Double Oak and then get stuck in the traffic from Jernigan on in. When they put that light there, people are gonna come around the corner and see the traffic backed up from Vickery, and guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna take a right. And that's why to me, this is one of the most important beginning of the discussions, at least from my perspective as mayor, is we've got to get in front of this as a town. Because when that traffic backs up at Vickery, everybody's going to cut through Double.
We need more lemonade stands.
Yes. So just the closing, recap of it is we know we need to look at alternative solutions. We're not a town that justifies adding police officers more than what our current department is staffed. We need to look at alternatives. Signs are a way of helping mitigate the speeding problem. And as the mayor has pointed out, if we get additional traffic signs on 407 and it diverts them through Double Oak, our problem will just get bigger, and we have to give it some attention at some point in time. Not all of these solutions are inexpensive, but we have to start considering what we can do. Be tasteful in it, keep our rural atmosphere the way you want it, but there are less expensive options compared to personnel, vehicles, and other equipment that we can invest in. So I encourage you, if you have thoughts about this, to please send your comments in through the website. Let Chief Rivas or myself know, or the mayor, anybody you feel on council, to put your comments in, because we do want to know how you feel about more signs, lighted signs, trailers, speed bumps. We want to find solutions before the problem is over for our town and keep our town safe. Yep, thank you. Any other closing comments?
No, man, this comes down to what the citizens in Chapel want out there, what they're willing to put up with, a little lights every now and then at night, most of these lights are, after 10, 11 o'clock at night, not much traffic out there, so I don't see a problem with those lights coming on for a few seconds or so while it's out there at that time, so.
One of the things, if you're gonna post this presentation again anywhere, Cedar Crest is one word.
Cedar Crest is noted in the presentation.
No, but it's one word, not two.
Oh,
I know because I lived close to it and I walked out quite early.
I
looked, I don't know, weird stuff like that catches my, attention, so whatever.
This may actually, I'll speak with council, but we may want to have a specific public hearing just on the traffic. And get the citizens active and get in here and do some brainstorming idea sessions and such before we would go spend any money or take some action.
Or maybe an ad hoc committee, just throwing that out.
So more to follow on this one. I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem and Chief.
well, so just last comment on it is we were trying to get this in front of council before budget, because if there were some expenditures that we were willing to do as a town, as a council, we wanted to make sure we could include it in the next budget season and not put this off another year.
And I believe even we can still pull off the budget and the public hearing. So thank you. Great job. Item number 10, discussion, consideration, and action on activation of the Double Oak Citizens Commission, which is contained in our ordinance, Article 1.1100, presentation by Councilmember Pat Wellman. Pat?
Okay, so one of my tasks for this meeting was to look at all of our liaison positions, all of these different committees that we have in the town. And so I went through all of our ordinances and all of our resolutions to figure out what we had, how they were structured, how we were supposed to be running them. And in that time, I came up on this ordinance that says we have a Double Oak Citizen Commission. And it has been around since '05. I don't know if anybody has any history on it that's been longer than me, but I've never seen this commission in action since I've been here in Double Oak. So I know I put it down as discussion, consideration, and action, but what this Double Oak Citizens Commission does is it hears, considers, and gives recommendations to the mayor and to the council on citizens' complaints or concerns related to staff, contractors, council. It has 5 members that serve staggered 2-year terms, and there are 2 alternates. So I wanted to put it out there because I'm one of these people that if we have it on as an ordinance, we either need to be following it or it needs to go away. So,
Well, I can make a comment.
sure.
The Citizens Commission, like you said, was into '05. Then I think in '07, it was abolished. And then in '09, it was reinstated. So there's
But we never really had anybody on it though, in '09. So it was reinstated, but never filled with citizens. Okay. So do we have any comments from any council people or anybody in the audience that wants to talk about that?
I have some comments.
Sure.
Just like you said, we haven't had one, and kind of why. This doesn't include anything about mayor or council members, so are they like excluded from this body? Like if somebody has a complaint about something?
It says council.
So it can be a complaint against us as well in there, as I was reading some of the things that go on with it. It can be anything that a citizen brings that can be.
Okay, so it could concern council members. I just wanted to clarify
It
that.
could.
Okay. Another question that comes to mind, and again, I'm just throwing this out there since we're having a discussion, is, I don't know how to say this in a polite way, but I keep track of a lot of what's going on, not only in healthcare, but in higher ed, because I'm retired out of there, and I still have a lot of people, friends who are in it. But there's a lot going on in higher ed with committees making it really attractive for students to heddle on fellow students about microaggressions and things like that. And this sort of strikes me as like saying, come tattle on somebody because for whatever reason, and I'm not saying that would happen, but it could happen, and I don't know why it was abolished and reinstated and hasn't been functioning, but I'm just wondering if it got petty. And I guess the other thing is, in a small town, it strikes me as more bureaucracy, since basically this committee looks at stuff and ultimately goes to the mayor anyhow, so why wouldn't it just go to the mayor, like it apparently has since 2009 or whatever, since we haven't had one that's been active, so I'm just, those are some questions that came to mind, so that's, just throwing it out there.
I have a couple thoughts. I like the idea of residents holding council and staff and contractors and bringing issues. I think, and I wasn't aware of it either. I came across the ordinance once and wondered it myself. But I can see that there could be a concern about having your name out there when you come up with a complaint and stuff. So it gives a cloak of anonymity for you to go to a committee that is not council and share your grievance with them, and then have that council bring that concern to council. So there's that level of anonymity that protects the individual citizen for whatever reason. They don't want their name out there with the allegation or concern or complaint or criticism. So I see how that could be advantaged. for our town. My concern would be, we sometimes struggle for volunteers as it is, so having another committee out there, would we get residents to volunteer and be those spokespersons to bring the concerns? We had talked about HOA, representation, because we have so many neighborhoods in our town, and having a representation for them to, come to council with concerns that affect them. It hasn't materialized, but that would be my two concerns is, I think it is an anonymity, but could we get people to volunteer on that committee?
How does it give them, when it says anonymity, when it says the minutes of the commission shall be public records? Any findings, determinations, conclusions, or recommendations will be made in open session? So I'm confused.
So I guess so, I'm Citizen Smith, and they come before the Double Oak Citizens Commission with a concern and of something happening with the contractor who's working in my neighborhood, but I don't want to say anything because maybe I'll get shortchanged on the work affecting my home. So I don't want to put my name out there, so I'm going to go to this Double Oak Citizen Commission and give them my thoughts and ask that they come and represent my interest before council and the mayor. That's where I'm coming from.
But it doesn't say that that information is going to be excluded in public records. I mean,
So I'm looking
if you're
at,
suggesting that, it needs to be spelled out.
I'm looking at the purpose that was on our page here, and it's where the commission hears, considers, and gives recommendations to the mayor and citizen complaints.
Well, what I'm looking at is the actual ordinance that's in the agenda packet. So that's all I'm saying, asking about is, it's in there, it says it's going to be made public, so.
So I'm gonna stall this discussion and move it out a little bit. So we do actually have this as an instated, right?
It is currently in,
And,
yes.
and it is active, we just
It is
haven't done
currently
anything.
active in our ordinances, we just never have filled it. So what can happen with this is, one of the things we can do is table it, because we do have an ordinance review committee,
Correct.
and we can send it to them, and then they can make a recommendation of whether it needs to stay there and then be active, or to get rid of it. So like I said before, I'm not for keeping ordinances or keeping things in our ordinances that we don't need, or that we're not going to use. We need to take it out, or we need to enact it, one or the other.
I think cleanup is a good thing, and I think postponing it or sending it to the ordinance review committee makes perfect sense, based on some of the questions that have come up. And then they can bring it back to the council.
So Pat, based upon the fact that you brought this to the attention of the council, if I'm hearing you correctly, we should go ahead and table it and move it on to the ordinance committee and/or bring it back for future discussion. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, that is.
Actually, I'm going to interrupt. Robert's Rules of Order, if you table, it means you set it aside in the same meeting, it gets brought back. So since this is going to move to a future meeting, it needs to be postponed. I'm just saying.
So I would say,
Thank you.
yes, so I would say postpone this
Okay.
and refer it to the ordinance review committee.
So you should do that.
Can we just take that as an action to refer to the ordinance committee and make that our action?
Yeah, she
So
should.
I move that we postpone this and move it to the ordinance
Yes.
review committee for action.
Yes. And recommendation.
And recommendation, right, yes.
Thank you.
That's what they will be doing on other days. Okay, that was the first one.
So,
Well, let's act on these ones.
Sorry.
No, it actually works out nicely.
I tried to put it separately. so
That
we
makes
could
an
have it
excellent
on
plan.
so do we have a motion to postpone?
She just.
I made the motion to
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Pat and a second by Dean. Eileen?
Ms. Schoenberg,
Aye.
Mr. Dietrich,
Aye.
Ms. Welland,
Aye.
Mr. Gordon,
Aye.
Ms. Hilliard.
Aye.
Item number 10 has been postponed. Item number 11, discussion, consideration, and action on eliminating the Conservation Tree Committee. Presentation by Pat Mullen.
All right, this is another one that I found that is inactive and hasn't, again, I've never seen it active here in the town of Double Oak. But whenever I was looking through ordinances, I found that the, I found that Article 3.1500, tree preservation, is covered under the, let's see, I don't know what kind of commission it is under. It is under the Planning and Zoning Commission or Committee. And then there's also the permit 3.1507 permit application review, which is under the Public Works Director for town ordinances as well. I have talked to Randall about this at one point, and he said he agreed that those two cover the same things that this tree preservation cover. And so he was also thinking that may be one that could be eliminated because of that, because the ordinance is already covered under two other issues for our permit process.
We speed this up and just say, let's do number 10, what we did to number 11, and move on.
Well, this one I think we're going to vote on eliminating officially.
I have a question, just because I was poking around and I ran across ordinance number 48, talking about, actually, in ordinance of the town of Texas establishing rules and regulations regarding tree preservation, providing purposes and definitions, providing the requirement that certain permits be applied for, blah, blah, blah. So,
That's here too.
So- but we have an ordinance, so if we're gonna do away with that, this also needs to accompany that or be reviewed somehow, or does this stay standing in light of eliminating the committee? I'm just asking, because I don't know.
So these ordinances, I'm not saying change any of the ordinances, I'm saying we don't need the committee because all of these ordinances and these commissions, we already have looking at this, already cover those, so this committee is not needed.
Okay, so you just want to abolish the
I
committee?
just want to abolish
Okay, I
the
just
committee.
one more
I do
question.
not want to abolish ordinances here, I think we have them in place, we need to follow the ordinances
Yeah,
that we have, not have a separate committee that's also doing the same thing.
I just wanted to check to make sure that there wasn't, like,
Is that clear?
this
I got
committee.
it.
Okay, so this is to, do you want to make a motion on this?
Yes,
I make a motion,
no, you move.
I move, okay, I move that we eliminate the Conservation and Tree Committee.
I'll
A
second.
second.
We have a motion by Pat, a second by Mayor Pro Tem. Eileen, please call the roll.
Ms. Schonred.
Aye.
Mr. Petrie.
Aye.
Ms. Hilliard.
Aye.
Ms. Wallen.
Aye.
Mr. Gordon.
Aye.
The elimination of the Conservation Tree Committee passes. It has now been eliminated. By the way, the last time that was brought up was in 2014. They put the 3 trees on Cedar Crest. It was Mayor Donnelly, it was Gary Garrett, Mr. Bachman, and the request came out after it was seen on the agenda that next year those trees will be 10 years old, and our mayor emeritus would like us to go get our pictures taken in front of the trees. So, with those gentlemen as well. So I said that we would absolutely do that. Item number 12, discussion, consideration, and action on combining the Town Hall Renovations Committee and the Town Beautification Committee into the Town Buildings and Ground Committee. Presentation by Pat Long.
Okay, this is another one that has not been, or 2 committees that have not been, the Town Hall Renovation Committee was active at one point, and then they've made the renovations and have not been active since. And the Town Beautification Committee, Eileen, I could not find anything that showed that one had ever been active either. It's been years.
I don't recall.
Okay.
Ever been.
All right. So again, I talked with Randall about this one. And he did believe that we needed a town buildings and ground committee because he would like to have input from citizens before he makes recommendations for anything to be updated or anything on the grounds that needs to be updated, like we talked about the speakers or the outside pavilion. We talked about other things that needed to be done around here. And he'd like to get citizen input as to whether these should be done and prioritized by citizens, not him deciding that this needs to be done. Because it's your tax money, he felt like it would be better if we had citizens kind of prioritizing and helping him with that. So this committee would audit the condition of the building and grounds, and include any property owned or maintained by the town, and give recommendations for renovations and upkeep to the town council for consideration and action. And this would be upkeep, not the normal mow the grass, that kind of stuff. This is anything that's larger that needs to be looked at. And they would work with the public works director who would act as their staff advisor to this committee.
Would the council still be able to make recommendations, or would they have to go through the committee? Just asking. So, and the reason I say that is, we started a project last council, to make some changes in the, I'll call it the server/utility room, and we got started, but we're not finished. And I think that needs to be picked up again. I don't know that it needs to go through a committee, since we know what needs to be done. It's just really getting bids to get the work done and bring it to council.
So in the instance.
So I'm just throwing that out.
So I believe with what Pat's brought to the table here is it's not really about who's gonna do what, when, and inside of it, it's combining
Yeah,
together is what the action item specifically.
Right,
As
that's
far
what
as
action item
mechanics and how we're gonna
is.
work it, that has yet to be decided. So this is just combining.
Combining the two so that we have a group that looks at town buildings and grounds and is dedicated to doing that to help Randall understand, or for him to work with them so he can understand what the citizens want done.
So the discussion here, council, is combining them. Is there other discussion, or do we have a motion to continue and move on?
I'm not, I mean, a lot of the town, the hall renovations are brought to the attention of council because our staff works here, so they identify the issues. I don't know how much citizens are going to have input there. I know the Double Oak Women's Club does a lot of work on the landscape, you know, that median in the middle of our parking lot, that you guys are making beautiful all the time. So, again, and it's hard to get volunteers. So I'm not sure if this one serves a purpose as a community committee, but that does not mean I don't want residents to submit recommendations or opinions for improvements on the property, the grounds, and the building. So just the existence of another bureaucratic committee, I don't know that there's a need, and we wanted to restrict it to a few committee members to be making those suggestions. That's still coming from the whole town, so I would be in favor of eliminating it altogether.
yeah, I follow your thought process, because again, well, part of the reason we're here is so that citizens come to us and say, hey, what about this? So, I'm not a fan of bureaucracy. I am a fan of cleaning things up, and if they haven't been populated, you can always abolish them, and if at some point in time in the future there's a need, you can bring back. I mean, this isn't like a forever decision. So, good point, Connie.
Thank you.
So in the instance of this item, and the way it's written, I don't believe we have the ability to abolish it off of this item. We would have to do it at another item. So this vote would basically be about if we were combining them or not. And
So,
then we would have to
Well,
come back
actually,
to the
somebody
vote.
could make an amendment to this, to abolish it. You vote on the amendment, and then say if Connie made a motion and it got seconded, we would actually vote on the amendment. And if that passed, then we'd go back to the original one, we'd have to vote, and that one would have to fail, and then we'd be done. So you could do it all in one meeting if you wanted to. I'm really getting into this Robert's Rules of Order stuff.
So I am fine with eliminating them because that's what I was actually going to do at first before I talked to Randy. I'll be honest with you, I was thinking about they haven't been populated, I've never seen them work. Let's eliminate them, and that's when he brought up to me that he felt like it would be better if he had somebody that could help him prioritize things. But if we want to do it where the council's going to prioritize those things, then we can do that.
Well, the council's looking at the budget quite often. They're taking into other pieces of information that they're privy to, so I still want feedback from the town.
Well, and we'll get that in town council meetings when things come up.
Right,
On the
you're still
agenda. That's what.
So can I move that, can I make this move on my own thing?
Yes.
So I move that we change,
No, you amend.
that we amend.
You're proposing an amendment.
I move that we amend this to sunset or eliminate both the Town Hall Renovations Committee and the Town Beautification Committee.
Is the language on that okay? 'Cause I'll second
Yes,
it.
I second.
Were you able to capture that, I mean? Or you'll get it on the, okay. All right. So we have a motion by Pat Wellen and a second by
Me. Really.
me. All right. Good job on the wordsmith. Eileen, please call the vote.
Ms. Hilliard,
Aye.
Mr. Dietrich,
Aye.
Mr. Orton,
Aye.
Ms. Schoenbrood. Aye. Ms. Wellen.
Aye.
So item 12 has been amended to eliminate or sunset both committees.
Okay, now, we passed the amendment, we have to go back to the original proposal,
Right?
and we have to bring that up. There has to be a motion, it has to be seconded, and then we have to vote it down to kill that. I know it
Would
sounds
someone like to
weird,
do? This is a motion on
So
the.
I move that we combine the Town Hall Renovations Committee and the Town Beautification Committee into the Town Buildings and Grounds Committee.
but I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Pat, a second by Jean.
Could you repeat your motion, please?
I move that we combine the Town Hall Renovations Committee and the Town Beautification Committee into the Town Buildings and Grounds Committee.
Now we have to vote against. In the not affirmative, to kill this.
So, Eileen, let's give it a shot.
Okay. Ms. Schoenbrood,
Nay.
Ms. Hilliard,
Nay.
Ms. Wellen,
Nay.
Mr. Dietrich,
Nay.
Mr. Orton,
Nay.
You,
I did.
We did it.
So the item has not passed. So, hey, new council did that.
But we accomplished the mission. We have.
Absolutely. Thank you all,
Okay.
that's great. Item 13, we have a citizen that would like to speak on item 13. Item 13 is discussion, consideration, and action to establish a drainage committee separate from the roads committee and renaming roads and drainage committee the roads committee. Presentation by Pat Nolan, but we have Dr. Goodman. You had put this on to speak, so if you'd like to come up.
Gary Goodman, 1313 subscribe, Double, great little town of Double. I would like to speak about this. I have thought about it, and we do have this drainage study that's coming up, and I think there's going to be a need for a lot of people to look at that drainage study. And I think having a committee for drainage separate from the road and drainage would be advantageous and take a great burden off of me. I think that one thing you might consider in naming this, and this is something just for your discussion, would be that they might also oversee the sewer system that is used in part of our town. So it could be, they could be kind of an oversight and a mechanism to get input about the sewer system and to kind of watch over that. So this is
Great suggestions, appreciate the input. And I don't know how many people know that Double Oak actually has a sewer system. It's
Not many.
It's basically built around our businesses. Thank you. So, council?
I have a couple of questions. Because I'm still new, a year into this. How much oversight do we really have of the sewer system for our businesses? I mean, I know we have reports and things like that, but how much, like, I'm assuming that Randall does that as part of his job, so where would the committee come into that? And just to clarify,
Yes,
I don't know that question.
I echo Jean's
It would be
concern.
more so to give it, to not leave it out, but to have it tied to a committee in case we had to do something. So, for example, when I got my tour of the town from Mayor Emeritus Donnelly. Literally, we were over there, he showed me where the box is, what you might have to do if something was to happen, if it was to overflow or overfill, here's what you have to do, here's how you've got to contact people. So it is something that the town is responsible for. And so I think, Dr. Goodman, I really like your suggestion that we would make that a part of it as well.
I still go back to that's part of Public Works.
I would agree. May I ask for Dr. Goodman? Dr. Goodman,
Yes.
could you just advise, like, has road and drainage ever had an oversight roll over the sewer system of the town?
Oh, no. Never.
So,
Just a suggestion,
Yeah,
if you're gonna start this committee, that might be something that they could, deal with and kind of watch over that
Right.
situation, that's all.
yeah, it's more of a monitoring thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
thank you. And- Go
You have
ahead,
another
Jean.
question?
I was just echoing your thoughts. I think that really falls under the duties of our public works, and I don't see how a citizen committee oversighting the sewer system is advantageous. We have the drainage funds of the town are what, I think the intention of the committee was to be, and not burden them with, I think, something that should be happened by, over by our public works department.
The sewer system in this area is part of the drainage as well. It's, if you know where Rapid Med is, that area, that withholding area that is on the north side and on the east side of Rapid Med, we did have an instance, the mayor went through this with me, Mayor Emeritus went through it with me. We literally had a situation where it overflowed and ran down.
Yeah. But how's that committee gonna resolve that problem? I mean, that's like a real-time public works
It could
issue.
come back to the fact that that drainage ditch is a part of the drainage for the.
That's what I think part of the study may show, because I
Right.
had that same discussion with Mayor Emeritus Donnelly on, it came very, very close to that Rapid Med. In fact, they thought it was going to go into the Rapid Med at one point. So there is a drainage, or there's a potential when we get dumped on, that wasn't sized right or something
That is.
originally when it was built. And so it did become a drainage, so that would be part of drainage oversight, actually, that retaining pond. over
Well,
there.
to me, I'm playing devil's advocate here, because I've been thinking about this, and I know that we struggle to get volunteers for committees. I guess I kind of view this recommendation as a temporary one to deal with the outcomes of the drainage study, and not necessarily an ongoing permanent one.
I don't know.
Because, and
because-
I'm throwing this out as food for thought, because to me, it's a small town, we're adding bureaucracy, and the concept of like, well, if drainage has to talk to Lowe's, then they have to, it's like, the Roads and Drainage Committee brought this to the council after a lot of deliberation, but we talked with engineers from HAP. I mean, essentially, when it comes to roads and drainage and money, we end up talking to the engineers to get their insights, their suggestions, to develop the criteria that go out to vendors. So it's not like, I mean, honestly, they're the experts. So the Roads and Drainage Committee really are taking some of the workload off the council to say, we have considered all these options, and we've got either this option is the best one, or the engineers recommend either A or B, and then the council deliberates on that. So splitting it apart, to me, doesn't really, I mean, it creates bureaucracy, but it's not like there's a lot of time that the committee spends on this.
Okay, so Jean, as I walked around and talked to citizens this last year, drainage was our number one issue. They were thankful that the roads committee has been so good at staying on top of the roads. And they were so thankful that this year, or last year, the council made the action and put the money together to do all these. But they felt like more attention needed to be spent on drainage. And I do believe we'll get citizens that will respond to that, because as I walked around, there were several of them that were having backyards flood, having front yards flood, having drainage issues, or having the flumes that came down through the middle of their
Well,
yards.
I've been on roads and drainage, and I've been talking to a lot of people too, and I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm just saying that what comes out of that study is gonna spend, whether it's the Roads and Drainage Committee or the Drainage Committee, is gonna end up working with the engineers who are gonna come and say, this is the sequence that you need to do it. And one of the things that I've learned from sitting with the engineers and talking to them is, when it comes to drainage that the town is responsible for managing, you work from the bottom up, because if you work from the
Yes,
top
I
down
understand
or the
that.
middle, then you cause problems farther downstream. So really, when it comes to citizen input, it's like, you gotta follow what the experts say.
And
So
they'll
just-
do just the same, I expect them to do the same thing that our roads and drainage committee does. In fact, I think we have some engineers that are in this town that have done this type of work. So
I have been contacted by some folks who actually work in this industry that live in Double Oak that are interested in being a part of the drainage.
Yeah, I spoke to one of those during my campaign, as did Lisa Miller.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, they're on the agenda later on tonight, for that very purpose.
good. So I'm gonna move that we establish a drainage committee separate from the roads committee and rename the roads and drainage committee the roads committee.
My second.
So we have a motion by Pat and a second by Connie. Eileen, please call vote.
Mr. Dietrich,
Aye.
Mr. Horton,
Aye.
Ms. Hilliard,
Nay.
Ms. Woolen,
Aye.
Ms. Schoenbrook.
Aye.
The item 13 passes. We will now have a new drainage committee.
Can I comment even though you voted?
Sure.
Donna Dillon, Juju, or whatever it
Wait till the extension.
We can extend.
is. Yes, I was trying to think what my house number was. Okay, so, because I know Dr. Goodman's been on roads and drainage forever, I was kind of wondering, how many people do you have on your committee?
I'm not sure, but it's around 7.
7, and would you say that, let's say, there's a couple that are more, that deal with the roads, and then another several that deal with the drainage, or do you all do it all at the same time?
We pretty much do it all at the same time, but not, well, we discuss it at the meeting,
Okay,
but generally, if we generally turn drainage issues over to the Public Works Director. We can go look at them and say that, you know, we think this is an issue for the property owner or issue for the city.
okay.
And then we turn it over to Randall, who then probably would turn it over to the engineering, because we don't have engineering people. We can't make engineering decisions.
Right.
That's what the purpose of having an engineering company for the city on, you know.
And then the drainage issues, as a homeowner, I'm responsible for what's going on my property. How does it become a town's problem versus a homeowner problem? Like,
Well-
is there a difference
Okay, drainage under the roads is part of the town's.
under the road?
Under the
Right.
road is the town, roads and
Right.
drainage, which is why they typically have gone together, because if it's under the road, you want to do it when you're working on the road,
Okay.
unless there's something like Mineral last year where there was a problem, it imploded, and it had to be fixed,
Okay,
that kind of thing.
okay,
So this drainage study is a whole different, it looks at the whole town,
okay.
looks at the watershed, and will come back and say, we've identified these issues that the town has responsibility for,
Right.
or needs to consider. For example, there are some places along Kings Road, and the fire department can tell me exactly where, because I don't have it memorized, where, you know, when there are heavy rains, they'll put cones out because it floods over the road. So obviously, there's a bottleneck there.
Right.
We know that there's one going in Flower Mound that Flower Mound wants us to throw some money into, because they're gonna work downstream. But as it comes up towards us, it's like, well, what do you want to throw in on this? Because obviously you're a feeder, but they need to fix theirs to truly understand what our problem is. So it's those kinds of things where the town, the drainage study gets involved and say, this is something the town needs to consider spending money on.
Okay.
And we have no idea what kind of money it is, but it could be big.
Okay. And then my only other comment is, Dr. Duggan, like I said, he's worked on the committee for years, and if he wanted sewage attached with drainage, I don't really understand what the problem is, because it is all one and the same going down there. And so it should be drainage and sewage, or however you want to word it. And drainage, yes. Public Works will deal with it, but they make the recommendation, and they are the ones who come to the town and say, hey, we know we're having flooding here or flooding there, and we need some issues. But that's it. I just wanted to make sure that you realize that he's your source of information that I would try to take a little bit more knowledge from.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Don't
Thank you.
anticipate that because of the way that the sewage runs into those overflow areas, that is a drainage problem. And it does that, so it will be considered in that.
Yep. So item number 14, we have two citizens that would like to speak on item 14. That is discussion, consideration, and action on the appointment of council members as liaisons to the town commissions, committees, departments, and organizations. Presentation by Pat. Phyllis, your name was on the list first. Please come up.
Phyllis Myers, 2130 East Court. And looking at the agenda item, I'm not 100% sure it is relative to the agenda item, but Patrick said to write my name down and get up and ask the question. It is summer, it is almost August, and it is the time I send letters to the people on the Board of Adjustments asking them if they want to be reappointed for another 2-year term. So I'm doing this as the chairman of the Board of Adjustments. It has varied over the years of whether you guys, the council, would like to meet the candidates for the Board of Adjustment and or PNC. I'm not speaking for PNC. If you want to meet them, I don't care one way or the other, I need to put it in the letter I send them and ask them whether to tell them that the council would like to meet them on such and such a date. For history, it's gone all over the place. The mayor has made the decision by himself, the council has made the decision as a group, it has been decided in council comments. Just tell me what to put in the letter.
So how complicated do we want to make this?
Well,
And my recommendation is don't make them come in.
So why I wanted Phyllis to get up and state that is because it's not an item on the agenda tonight, so we can't take any vote on it. I would like to get input back from the council quickly so that I can provide input back to Phyllis. So please, eat what she said, get back to me by tomorrow if we can, so I can give her the direction she needs to go to next. Okay? Dave Nelson.
No, so the first one on here.
Well,
Oh, no, oh, okay,
no.
sorry.
No,
Okay,
Dave-
sorry.
I didn't know you were on the list.
I said,
We're here too. This is
34503. First of all, I applaud the council for eliminating some of the bureaucracy that's stagnant in our old ordinances. I guess I'll start by saying that the rumors of my death are exaggerated and premature. As I was looking through the reference material tonight for your agenda, I noticed that the Upper Trinity Water Board does not have a representative. I'd like to introduce myself. I've been representing Double Oak for a little over 3 years now on the board, and would be happy to continue to do so. I stepped up when Dick Cook passed away. He had the position for many, many, many years, and nobody else wanted it, so I had some experience on other water-related board of directors, so I volunteered to do it, and I'm happy to keep doing it. Obviously serve at the pleasure of the board. I did hear a couple of terms tonight that I'd like to clear up. If you see sewage in a ditch,
it's a problem.
That's a problem.
Well, he calls it that, or.
You have water runoff, you have watershed,
Water.
and you have sewage. And the sewage, you should never see or smell. And the reason the Double Oak has a seat on the Upper Trinity is because we have this small area of businesses that has wastewater treatment. And there's got to be a vehicle for that, and that's what the Upper Trinity, one of the things the Upper Trinity provides. So, any questions about that?
Thank you for the enlightenment.
Well, that's really it. So anyway, like I said, I serve at your discretion, and I'd be happy to keep going. It's a very interesting position, and we're building a $400 million lake up north of Ladonia to look forward 50 years for water service, putting in a 72-inch water line from there all the way down 33 miles to hook up to another one that's going to feed us here, even though I know we buy our water from Cross Timbers. Guess where they get their, actually they've got 8 wells that they provide water from, but there are times when those wells either go down or can't maintain the volume, so they supplement it with Upper Trinity lake water, most of which comes from Lake Louisville.
I can attest, having gone to what was it, the annual meeting last year, that you were there. So he actually is performing duties as representing Double Oak.
I do, and I'd be happy to, have him put some slides together. If you guys want to know a little more about it, I could show you some pretty pictures. But we really, when I sit next to Highland Village and Lantana, and most of the members there are from the larger cities and all the way up to northern Denton County. So our piece of the Upper Trinity is very small, but I still have the same vote as everybody else. Okay, that's all.
Well, first off,
I have a question for Dave.
yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
You have to come up.
I've already said
Yep, and then you have to come up again.
But we like you, Bonnie.
Bonnie Morrow, 105 North Florence. Dave, where did you say you're building the lake?
Ladonia, it's about 15 miles northwest of Greenville.
Okay.
Oh, how many gallons again? How many?
Oh, it's about the size of Lake Grapevine. We're going to start impoundment probably in 2025, and should have water coming out of the lake at the end of 2025.
Yeah, I've seen posts recently about bridges being finished.
I'll
For
work.
that.
Yes, they
Yeah,
they
but obviously
there's
because
two
it's gonna
main
be,
bridges that,
yeah,
used to be low country roads,
right,
so they had to elevate them and make them into
Yes.
4-lane, huge structures, one close to the dam and one about halfway up the lake. And if you just, if you Google Lake Ralph Hall,
yeah,
there is a lot of stuff. Upper Trinity's real good at social media.
yes.
There's a lot of information, a lot of pictures, a lot of explanations of what's happening now, what's going to happen. But it's pretty cool. There's a big fossil park up there. People go up there and dig fossils, and they found some huge dinosaur thing up there that the Perot Museum is busy excavating. They found native, not native, but early 1800s graveyards. Of course, they got to protect that and move everything. There's a lot more to it than I would have ever guessed. They don't just dig a hole and fill it with water. Thank you.
Thank you for your service for us, and absolutely, we want you to continue, and,
Absolutely.
and I apologize for the oversight. We
So-
wanted to-
Mayor, that was something else I found whenever I was looking through the resolution, so I was gonna bring that up, Dave, actually, because it was resolution 2104, which appointed Dave
That
the
is correct.
rest of the term, which expired May 31st, 2023. This is a 4-year term, so it just expired, and so we need to have a resolution to reappoint Dave.
Can we get that on the next agenda? We'll get it on the next.
That's what I
agenda.
have here as my notes that we needed to talk
Thank
to
you.
you. Make sure you still.
I didn't realize that, thank you.
Okay. All right.
So now we'll turn it over to.
Okay, so the first one on here is the Devil Oak Volunteer Fire Department. And again, as I'm going through everything, I'm reading contracts also to understand who's supposed to be doing what here. In the contract with the Devil Oak Volunteer Fire Department, it says the town shall designate the mayor to act on behalf of the town and to serve as the liaison officer between the town and agency. The mayor or his designated substitute shall ensure the performance of all duties and obligations of the town herein stated, and devote sufficient time and attention to the execution of said duties on behalf of the town, in full compliance with the terms and conditions of this agreement, and provide supervision of the town's employees, agents, contractors, subcontractors, and/or laborers, if any. So, Mayor Johnson, you are the liaison on this one.
That is
I
correct.
have two other people that have said that they would be interested in being liaisons on this, so it is up to you to decide if you're going to designate other people to be liaisons as well.
And before we get going on this, at the last meeting, there was discussion that council members were to send their preferences to Pat Bowen. 2 days after that meeting, I emailed our Mayor Patrick Johnson, our town attorney, and our town secretary, noting that that was breaking quorum, and never heard anything. So all of this came together, and quorum has been abused. I mean, the law has been broken, because that should have all gone to the town secretary, who would have assembled it for this meeting, not you. So anyhow, because of that, I did not send anything to anybody regarding any of this, because I'm not going to participate in breaking quorum. So, just that said, I'm bringing that up.
So in light of this, I'm going to ask the council to go ahead and resend everything to Eileen. We will bring this back to the council and address it at the next meeting.
So perhaps we're going to postpone this?
We will postpone it.
Okay, so do you want to make that motion, or shall I?
You go ahead and make it.
Okay, I move that we postpone item number 14, discussion, consideration, and action on the appointment of council members as liaisons to town commissions, committees, departments, and organizations, to a future meeting, in order that each council member can submit their requests for committee assignments to town secretary, who will compile those and include them in the agenda for that meeting to be considered by the town council.
So we have a motion by Jean. For postponement. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second by Connie. Eileen, please call the vote.
Mr. Gordon,
Nay.
Ms. Rowland,
I'm going to abstain. Abstain?
Mr. Dietrich,
Abstain.
Ms. Schoenbrood. Abstain. Ms. Hilliard.
Aye.
So based upon the count, so where did you have that?
Five, one red, and
Ooh, Mayor,
So,
you get to break the tie.
So that'll be correct. We are in a tie situation. Mayor cast the vote, correct? Mr. 3 abstains?
Yes.
Okay. So I will go ahead and vote aye to postpone. So the item is postponed. Item 15, discussion, consideration, action on applications to board, commissions, committees. Dr. Goodman, you had also put this one on the agenda. Did you want to come up and speak to this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for being active tonight. Appreciate it.
I have to state my name again.
Yes, you do.
Robert Gary Goodman, 131 Trailing Oaks Drive, Double Oak, Texas, best little town around.
Thank you.
I have a submission, as you can see from your packet, for the Road and Drainage Committee for Chris Ernst, who lives on Meadow Oak Court. As you can see from the application for the board or committees, he is a civil engineer. He has designed roadways and drainage systems for 14 years. And previous 5 have been investigating conflict. So I want to recommend this person for the Road and Drainage Committee, of which there is no such thing anymore. So I guess we should ask him which committee he would like to be on, and I will do that and explain to him what is going on. I would love for him to be a member of the Road and Drainage Committee. I would love for him to be a member of the Roads Committee.
Why can he not be a member of both?
But I think that he's a perfect person for the Drainage Committee. So,
Let's put him on both.
I guess, pardon?
I'm just saying, it'd be nice if we could put him on both if he'd be willing.
Well, if he would be willing, I don't know. But, so is that the proper action for me to talk to him, or is it the council's?
He's not here tonight, because I talked to him this morning.
Yeah,
He's not here, at the meeting.
he's not here.
No, Mr. Ernst isn't in attendance now, is
Mr. Ernst, are you here? No.
Okay.
So he is not here.
So would you, should the
I'm
council,
perfectly willing to talk to him and explain the situation, and then he can decide whether he wants to be on no committee, or both committees, or either one of the two.
So, Dr. Goodman, you've done an amazing job here with the town, and I have a lot of respect for you. I would be more than happy to have you contact him and then get back to us.
Pardon?
Yes, if you would like to contact him and get back to us, that would be great.
Okay.
thank you.
Well, he'll get, I guess the resolution will be whether he turns in another application for the committee.
All she would need to do is just contact us back and tell us which one, and then we can make the change.
Or both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also had a Sam Rogers. Sam here?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to come up, please?
Come say hi.
Yes. And Sam had filled out the paperwork on Board of Adjustments and then committee ordinance review. So, Mr. Rogers, if you'd just like to say a little bit about who you are, what you do, and all of that, and kind of let the council get to know you a bit.
I'm Sam Rogers with 131 Oakview Drive. I've been at Double Oak since 2006, and I do roofing and construction. So, spent time with previous mayors, driving around town, looking at problems, whether it be drainage or roads, and other issues with building problems over the years, and thought it was time to put my hand in and see if I could help.
Is there because you've got the Board of Adjustments, you've got committee and ordinance review, so is it, you're looking to do two things, one thing? Okay. Okay, excellent.
Is there a reason you didn't select road and drain?
Not my perfect expertise. I'm a little more in the building side of things.
Other questions, Council?
But happy to help if needed.
I know, we spoke
Yeah.
not too long ago.
We need help on the ordinance review committee, so that's great that you're set up for that.
Yeah.
We're to do that.
In your contracting experience, you'd be an asset on this, went to the Board of Adjustments.
And we don't want to bury him.
You won't bury me.
Okay, take too much time away from your work, because that still pays the bills.
The Board of Adjustments meets very rarely. And we need to kickstart ordinance review.
Yeah,
So,
totally agree.
I'm pleased and thankful that you volunteered your service to the town for these committees.
Anything else?
No, thank you for being here. Thank you for volunteering. So I believe, Council, what we have to do now is, we have to do this separate, but since we're going to follow up with Chris, tonight we would basically take action on, consideration and action on appointing Sam Rogers to the
Board of
Ordinance-
Adjustments.
Board of Adjustments and Ordinance Review. So is there a motion out
I
there?
move that we appoint Sam Rogers to the Board of Adjustments and the Ordinance Review Committee.
A second.
We have a motion by Pat and a second by Connie. Eileen?
Ms. Shonred.
Aye.
Ms. Hilliard.
Aye.
Ms. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Dietrich.
Aye.
Mr. Courtney.
Aye.
Mr. Shane Rogers, welcome to the Board of Adjustments and Ordinance, and thank you for volunteering. And Dr. Goodman, as soon as we hear back on Chris, we'll make sure we put it on the next agenda to get him where he wants to be. I don't want to vote on something and then be different, so. Okay. And I appreciate your sponsorship of him, your recommendation, and all the work you've done in this town. Thank you. So that wraps up new business, moves us to item 16, council and staff announcements and comments. I'm going to lead off on this one. Obviously, we have gone about a month without a town treasurer. We are open to anyone who might be interested in becoming a town treasurer. I would ask you to contact Eileen Kennedy and copy myself in terms of who that might be. Council, you, I'm sure, have some ideas on some folks that you would like to see potentially be the treasurer. I would like you to bring those to Eileen and myself as well. And at the next council meeting, we will look to appoint a new town treasurer. Okay?
Is there any thought being given to putting out, like in your Friday blurb or posting something on the website or both? A town blast saying we're looking for a treasurer, because that's an important decision supporting the town, especially since we're asking for volunteers. And also saying it would be nice if you had a finance background. I mean, we'd like to know, it would help when the council's considering this to have their background relating to financial background, government finance, that kind of thing. It might save us some time in our deliberations, so.
I've also been asked by a person that was considering it, what the duties were. So if you could include that, and I looked sitting back to the government type A, where it's listed what the duties of the treasurer are.
Yeah, so maybe put something together would help anybody who's thinking about and has questions, and would help us in our deliberations. Good suggestion, Pat.
So, council, you good with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to take a liberty without at least doing this in a public forum, and absolutely, we'll go out on Fridays, So, that's all I had for the, my portion of the announcements or comments, other than thanking you all for being here tonight. It's the middle of summer, and we very much appreciate you all being in attendance. Mark, any comments? Pat?
No.
Dean?
Nope.
Mike?
No.
Ryan?
No, sir.
Chief? Eileen?
I just wanted to mention that I will be attending the Lincoln County tax office, truth and taxation in Sonoma.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Since there's no further business, is there a motion from the town council to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. It is now 9:08. The meeting is adjourned.